Alex, warm welcome to Southside Stories. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Well, perhaps we can just start with a little bit of a background on you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Alex. Where are you based? What's your current kind of job title? And I think you're involved with a couple of different companies, but maybe we'll get onto that in a second. Just tell us a little bit about you first of all.
Sure. So I'm Alex. I'm currently in London Bridge or Monument. So that's the Shard there.
Yeah.
So not
Very
too
near
far
me.
away.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I know. I really should be saying it's that way because that would make it south side, but I can only apologise for my geography. So my job title. So I'm the chief exec or group chief exec of Effer Ventures.
Yeah.
So what do? We invest in growing businesses, and then we're very operational within them. So the two big kind of projects that we've got on at the moment, one is SME business funding. So we run a brokerage and debt advisory. So that's raising money for SMEs of anywhere between 5 grand and 10 million. My partner on the bigger stuff would say, don't say 10 million, say 50. But we tend to be 5 grand till 10k to 10 million. And then on the other side of the business, we are an investor in an offshoring business. So that's where you will hire a team in South Africa, in this case, rather than having a team in the UK. That's not to say it's a complementary to your team in the UK rather than a replacement. Yeah, that's what I do, and I run those businesses. The businesses are Funding Bay, FBX Capital, and the Legends Agency, and we there are three big investments at the moment.
Great, awesome. So we're going to go into at least one of those in a little bit more detail because I think especially the offshoring employment, finding people is a hot topic amongst most of our audience. So they're going to be interested in what you're doing there. We'll come on into that in a second. So really, you're a serial entrepreneur, I guess, are you? You've had some priors to this as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so my background in a nutshell, I started a lending business when I was young enough to be naive enough to start a lending business, and yeah, that was fun. We started off with the mission to make factoring sexy and lend lots of money, and one of those definitely didn't come true because factoring is definitely not sexy. But we built that business and we sold it just before the pandemic. And then since then, I've had a few different kind of interests and things that we've done either in the SME funding game, which is kind of clearly iterative from what we did, or in a few different markets, one being offshoring, one being recruitment. Got a couple of marketing things going on, but no, yeah, I think serial entrepreneur is not necessarily how I would describe myself, but I like starting and growing businesses.
What is it about that really gets your energy up? I mean, a lot of people go into corporate life and have long corporate careers. You've chosen a different path. What is it about running businesses that really sort of gets you up in the morning and energized?
To be honest, I'm just a control freak. So the thought of waking up in the morning and someone else telling me what to do, that fills me with dread. so maybe that's a negative. I don't know. No, I really like building things. I'm not very money driven. It's a nice side effect. But actually, I really like building things. I like seeing people hit their potential, and if I can have part of that or be part of that, yeah, I like it. I enjoy it. It's fun.
Great. With that comes responsibility and stress sometimes as well. But tell us first perhaps a bit about your growth plans and momentum. Sounds like you've had some great momentum. But what are your growth? What does that look like for you in the next 12, 24 months?
Yeah, well, our two core parts of the business, the SME funding market is not going away. Now, I suppose the reason why I'm focused on those two parts of the market is because I'm not particularly brainy. I certainly couldn't sit here and code something, from scratch. That's not my skill set. I'm never going to run a unicorn, or maybe I will, but it won't be with me doing the coding or the development or the product stuff. So therefore, it's a case of solving problems. So this year's growth is about solving more problems. Last year we grew by the turnover in the group grew by something like 15 times. I'd like to think we'll do that again this year, but I'm not sure we will because it's easier from a smaller numbers can multiply faster. So we'd like to double, triple this year. I think that's what we'd like to do. But the two big problems that people have, if you sit and talk to business owners and you say, right, tell me the truth. What are your two big or what is your problem? I can pretty much assure you that it'll be cash or it'll be people. And I think that's really, when I say I'm not brainy, hopefully I'm brainy enough to have detected that those are always issues, and therefore let's try and help people to solve them. And that's what we're trying to do. So from a growth perspective, multiples of growth, hopefully, and it should be fun.
Great, a lot of ambition there, which is great. Tell me, but let's stick with people actually. Let's, in terms of your challenges around people, you've got the offshoring piece in a second, we're going to talk about that. But in terms of you finding your staff, how do you go about defining the staff you need for your growth plans? How do you balance things like the need for fee earners versus account servicing or back office or admin? Tell us a little bit how you approach scaling up your team.
So to be honest, I'd love to sit here and say that it's a science, but it's not. It's very much done on feel. I have various kind of people that I really trust who run various departments, I suppose. We try and do as much at group level as we can, so kind of shared services. Fee earners, you may as well hire 20 fee earners, like just keep growing the fee earning part of the business. So long as you've got the leads to service, then you keep hiring, because if they don't perform, then people tend to self-select their way out of fee earning jobs. And then the back and middle office part of the business, I'd love to say, oh well, for every X 100,000 that someone's going to bring on in a quarter, then we do this or we do that. But actually, truth be told, is that I try and work people. I get the leaders to kind of get their teams not working to the bone, but I want them working down to like, okay, cool, we can't actually do any more, and then we'll go out and hire people. But our back and middle office, the majority of those staff are in South Africa, and I know so it sounds a bit. It's not to say that a person on maybe £1,000 or £1,200 a month is not a risk, or it's a risk. Like you adjust that risk based on the cost compared to what somebody like that would cost in the UK. So you can take a little bit more of a, get ahead of it from a back office perspective. So non-scientific, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Switching to attributes, things that you look for, culture fit. What are the sort of non-negotiables that you look for when you're hiring people?
It's really not very modern. But I like the thought of going for a pint, and it can be a non-alcoholic pint, and you don't have to really like me, but we have to be able to have a base level of respect between us, however senior or junior you are. And again, that doesn't necessarily we're relatively sort of growing organization. So they don't all have to go for a pint with me, and it doesn't have to be a pint. But the thought that you can, on a base level, kind of get on with the person that you either work for or with, that's pretty important for me. Ambition, I don't really like hiring people who have reached their ceiling, which makes me feel a little bit, like you're saying to people after a 2-hour interview process or 5-hour interview process, oh, you've hit your ceiling. But I like people who are going to grow with the role. I like people who are going to put, if somebody's got huge potential, we'll try and find a space for them. And equally, we have a rule, which is you never let a good person leave the building without a fight. So, if that part of the business is changing, we'll probably rotate that person into something else and try and get them engaged elsewhere, because there will always be things for great people to do.
Yeah, I love that expression. Never let a good person leave the building. That's a great one. And what about culture? Would you say you've got a culture defined, or is it a bit looser than that, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, when our head of people, if my head of people listens to this, she'd probably like me to tell you all about our, the values that we have, the 5 kind of core pillars and principles that we've got. But actually, I ascribe to them in terms of respect and drive and goals and all these types of things. But actually, the reality is it's about people. It really is. I think it's about what different people for different jobs. There's you can lazily say diversity. Yeah, thanks for guest. You can lazily kind of say diversity, but it's not really about, for me, it's not really about kind of, color of someone's skin or what they're doing. It's a diversity of thinking. So I think that we're keen to embrace that. We're trying to build a business of people that want to be A players, and if they're not A players, then they're willing to put the grind in to get to that point. So I suppose highly ambitious is probably the underlying thing. And actually, it's not really hard work, I would say. We're looking for people who want to work hard and want to progress and want to do stuff. But actually, if you're ambitious, the hard work will come with it. If you're ambitious, the success will come with it. So that would be the culture, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, great. Awesome. Let's move on then to the offshoring side of the business, because as I say, a lot of every business I speak to, and as you've already said, team normally comes up, hiring, finding people, cost of hiring in London comes up a lot. So one of your core business offerings is offshoring. Just tell us a little bit about, just start off with the proposition, just how that works. What's the offer? How do you solve team issues with that service?
Sure. So I was a customer first. So we started hiring back and middle office and some salespeople in Cape Town. And I was a customer of this employer of record service. We then sort of did it ourselves. We set up in South Africa. We did all this sort of stuff. This is in Cape Town. And then the MD of that business kind of moved on and set up himself and said to me, look, I'm great at recruitment. I'm great at this, but I don't have a customer focus, and I could do with a few bob. So we kind of invested in that business on the basis that we were like, well, we use it, we use this. And what it does is it's a really customer centric infrastructure built for growing businesses, or any business really, to build their team in Cape Town. And what it does is it essentially allows you to have people that are working from home in Cape Town at honestly like 40 to 75% discount to the UK price. We don't use the word cheap. It's not cheap. It's just great. It's just cost effective, because you're not underpaying people. You're not exploiting people. You're giving people opportunities to work on different markets. All of those things. And so what our business does, it provides all the infrastructure. So that's the insurances, it's the payroll, it's the documents, it's the contracts, we provide HR support, which most other kind of employers of record don't, mainly because I found it a pain when I was doing it, or our teams were doing it. Everything, performance plans, it's the whole, every single bit of it. IT, office space, we rent office space to people. We do everything to make sure that team in South Africa, in our case, is done effectively. We do that all ourselves. We also have partners that work around the globe. So we've got some great customers that have 25 or 50 people in Cape Town, and then they've got 3 people in India and 4 people in the Philippines as well. And we provide that kind of one-stop shop for that as well.
So although you spoke about South Africa quite a bit there, I guess there's some obvious advantages with South Africa, language with being one of them. But you also hire, recruit, retain people from India and other places in the world?
Yeah, we don't recruit actually, so we don't do the recruitment there. Right. But we provide, again, that same infrastructure. In South Africa, we have a recruitment and an employer of record service. That's what we do. And then in the rest of the world, we just do the employer of record part of what we're trying to do.
If somebody listening to this, sorry, Alex, if somebody's listening to this and think, actually, I'm looking to hire or fill a couple of positions, and they've just heard you say 40, 70% discount on what I might pay, especially in London. How would they get started with you? Would they provide a brief to you? What's the process to get underway?
Yeah, honestly, a job spec.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. I mean,
yeah.
You're looking to. I think that there's 2 things that define. But I think, to be honest with you, I don't think offshoring is for everyone, which seems crazy because it narrows our sort of target market. But I don't think it's for everyone. I think you have to be willing and able to train people remotely. It's the most important thing. And then, if you're willing to do that, then yeah, a job spec. Just chat to someone, talk about the cost, talk about the role. Is that role, is that a South Africa? Are there those types of people in South Africa that fill that role? That sort of stuff. So it's just a open it with a conversation. And I would say to anyone considering it, don't just think about the cost, think about the growth.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask you, you've sort of alluded it to my next question, which is sort of pitfalls, challenges, but also best practice. How do you really make, so if you do have a mix of offshore staff, how do you make that blended multi-location team, how do you make it a success? How do you keep the people that are offshore motivated and engaged?
Total cliche, but one team, one dream. Like it, I say, I had a meeting with someone this afternoon, or this morning, and they came to our office and they said, "Oh, look, well, we're just a bit worried, this, and this," and they were hiring more junior people because, of course, it's the easy part to do. You hire your admin people or your PA or your whatever, credit control people, whatever it is. And they said, "What's the biggest thing that people get wrong?" And I said, "Well, look, if you're going for a drink on a Friday night, or you guys have got your Christmas party, or you're going to an escape room in London, whatever it is, do the same in South Africa. Make it one team. Don't have team calls. Don't have of course, have a UK team call if you're talking about stuff that only the UK are involved in. But if you're doing something business wide and you're doing that, you bring it together and you make sure it's one team. Just imagine that the people in South Africa are working from home in Tunbridge Wells, and treat them like they're working from home in Tunbridge Wells. That don't see them as a sort of a secondary unit. And the failures that we've seen, and we see them, are where it's like, oh well, look, how come those guys aren't delivering? So, well, because you haven't trained them, you don't engage them, you don't speak to them, you've got no way of communicating intraday, so you're just looking at your metrics. And when you guys disappear on a Friday afternoon, you're still asking your SA team to work. It doesn't work like that. You've got to make sure that they are one team. You make it one team. They're working from home. They just happen to be in South Africa. And the second part is communication. If you're not set up to communicate with people on IM, be that Teams or Slack or whatever, think about it, because maybe it's email, I don't know, whatever. If you're not set up to communicate with people that are working remotely, it's very, very unlikely to work, because not many people are mind readers.
Yeah, good points. Let's change tack a little bit. We spoke previously about AI, and I'm interested in AI comes up in every single conversation I have with business owners right now, and it varies from the simple uses of ChatGPT to fairly fundamental changes that AI is beginning to impact on role definition, staffing levels, etc. From where you stand, where you get involved, a lot of small businesses, processes, and so on, give us a sense of how you think about AI, perhaps 2 or 3 ways in which you think AI might help you with your operational efficiency and scaling, perhaps.
It's really interesting, because you talk about it all the time. I talk about it all the time, and it's about the cliche, making AI work for you or for your business or whatever. But actually, the use cases are so universal that it's just going to change everything, I think. In our business, there's a few things. So in the finance side of things, you should be able to assess credit at our level. We are an introducer to the lenders. We should be able to assess credit based upon, you should be able to assess that based upon publicly available information at the drop of a hat. And that should mean that will make that an incredibly efficient process. I'm sure it will get it wrong, but that's something that we're looking to do, is how do we make our applications and everything that goes from our business over to our lending partner businesses, how do we make that as efficient and as effective as possible? How many no's can we prevent someone giving us because the piece of software has done it for us? So I think that's the first. And the second one, I suppose, in the offshoring part of the business is job specs. You send me a job spec tomorrow for somebody that you want to hire in Cape Town, and it'll talk about salaries in annual basis, for example. Well, in Cape Town, they talk about it on Rand in a monthly basis. And even though it's not a cost to company because you have taxes on top of it, they call £25,000 cost to company. That's how they describe their salaries. So actually our AI at the moment, we've trained a Perplexity model, and you put in a job spec and it South Africaifies it, for example. Now that used to be somebody's job. So it's things like that I think are going to, it won't necessarily, I think it will cause massive job losses in lots of ways and lots of places. But I think in our business, I think it's going to be about how do we use it to kind of augment processes, create better infrastructure, I would say.
Yeah. You work a lot with the small, medium size enterprise segment.
Mm.
Very interested, as do I. What do you see are the main challenges right now? Let's maybe limit this to the UK. What do you see as the main challenges in that market segment right now?
I mean, how aggressive can I go about the anti-business budget? I mean, now clearly it plays to my business's strengths, which is money and people. How do you find it's such a perfect storm for a nightmare for SMEs. You have like them or lump them, you have a government that is delivering anti-business everything. Every policy seems to be taking, people always talk about tax. Oh, well, look, this is a business tax. It's not. This is somebody's paying for it. Somebody is paying for it. And if SMEs are paying for it, then the person who pays for that is the person that doesn't get the job because I hire in South Africa. The person that pays for that is the person who doesn't get the job because corporation tax is at 24%. It's the person that doesn't get the job because their budget is cut because going to 15% national insurance means that actually, that's where our growth budget has gone this year. So somebody is paying for it. And ultimately, the people that are paying for that are going to be the people in the lower paid jobs. You look at retail. Guess what part of the budget is going to get cost? It's just going to be, well, how can we be more effective on the shop floor here? Well, look, the shop floor people are exactly the people that have, you're trying to protect against these types of things. You're trying to give benefit for you. So I think that SMEs are, if you think that's in big business, big retail businesses, and that rolls all the way through, I think, into the SME world. Ultimately, how you handle changing anti-business policy making is going to define success or failure over the next couple of years, and therefore, how do you manage your cash? How do you manage your people? How do you grow a business when you're in a high tax environment? How do you, if you're in the SME world, frankly, why would you come and work for an SME? I've worked in, when I was in fintech in the sort of the teens, it was really sexy to come and work in fintech. I could hire awesome people on really great salaries. It was wicked. You put a job out for a grad and you got half the Russell group would apply. But would they do that now? I'm not convinced they would, because you go in, the incentives on entrepreneurs relief, for example, you've got has been capped. You've got your capital gains is going up. Everything changes where. Why not go and work for Marks and Spencers? And you'll get your benefits, you'll get your work from home, you'll get your cuddles. You're still in a fast growth business, but you'll get all of the cuddles and infrastructure that you get from a big business. You'll probably get paid more as you did in the past. But now, if you get lucky, you go and work for a Coinbase or a Facebook in the early days or something, and you see that. I don't see the kind of risk reward as the same as it was. So I think people. Yeah, anyway, I think it's I work in cash flow and offshoring. So I think those are the two issues that people are going to struggle with.
Yeah, that's it's very much what I hear as well. And you make a good point as well about the budget, and especially the NI increase may actually end up harming jobs especially at the lower level, the kind of jobs that, as you say, are the kind of jobs that actually Labour is looking to sort of safeguard and improve.
And you can see the logic. You can see the logic. I don't know where I sit politically. I don't have a position necessarily, but you can see the logic. But the execution is, I don't know. You see the farmers out marching, right? It's like, come on, just put a cap on that. That means that it's the super wealthy farmers, not the small family farms. it's things like that where it just feels like the execution is just really poor. And I think SMEs will pay the price. SMEs, and like minimum wage, awesome. That's great. That should continue to rise with inflation as much as we reasonably can as a country. That makes a lot of sense. But you add national insurance to that. How many minimum wage people are therefore going to be either or just not get the next job? How many? I don't know the answer, but I'm pretty bearish on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm a very bad pint at the minute.
Yeah. Probably a good segue to talk a little bit about cash flow that you just raised there, and on your FBX capital funding base side of the business. If I am a small business and I'm worried about cash flow, maybe a temporary issue with cash, tell me how some of those services that you provide through those companies could help me.
Well, a loan, just so a classic loan. You can have invoice finance. You can leverage property, leverage any assets that you buy. There is a solution for everyone when it comes to raising money. Alternative finance is, I think last year was the year that more alternative finance was lent than bank finance. So there are a shed load of providers that will do that. Now, why do we exist? We exist because there are a shed load of providers that provide loads of different things. So I think my overarching advice to businesses is speak to somebody, speak to an introducer, speak to a broker, speak to an expert, because it's a pretty big and difficult to interpret market. And there's so many solutions. And there's a solution for every single business. If you're going bust tomorrow, you probably can raise money today. Probably, I would say. So if that's the starting point for everyone else, there's probably something out there.
Okay, good to know that. Let's move to wrapping up, Alex. Tell me a little bit about. We heard a lot about the budget then, and that view is shared with a lot of businesses. But tell me something that you're optimistic or excited about for 2025, if you can think of something. What are you excited about?
I'm not that negative.
I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you've got loads of things you're excited about.
To be honest with you, we just took our entire team over to South Africa. So that's a shed load of people going over to South Africa. And I think that the thing that excited me the most was seeing people that I wasn't expecting to really step up. When you're in this, loads and loads of people in a room together trying to do cool stuff and share strategy. We saw people that I wasn't expecting to step up. And I think I'm really, really excited to see that move into the performance of our business this year. That's really, really exciting for me. I also most excited about, I have a child coming in about 5 weeks time. So that's wonderful. Also quite exciting.
Very. That's good. That's going to be a life changer.
Well, a second child. So will it change my life? It will, but will it just compound the change? I think probably. So now I'm looking forward to seeing people that I wasn't necessarily expecting to really shine when we got the whole team together. There were some people that really stepped up and I was really impressed within our business. That's great for me. That'll allow me to do things that I want to do because I won't have to do. I'm really excited about that. And
great, super. Last question, and I'm asking everybody this: what's the best bit of advice you've ever received? And that could be from anyone. It could be somebody was a leader or a peer or a family member. But what's the best piece of advice you've ever received that's really stood you in good stead?
I'm going to say this because it will make my wife laugh, but her nana, who is really, really lovely, Barbara's mantra in life is never miss an opportunity to go for a wee. And that's probably the best piece of advice I've ever received. But from a business perspective, I think you read, there's so much nonsense out there. It's really hard to distill it, to be honest with you. So maybe that's the advice. Distill nonsense.
I'll remember that one, especially as I get older.
Actually, that means that I definitely will send the recording of this to my wife, which will make her chuckle. And at 8 months pregnant, I'm hopeful something will make her chuckle anyway.
Great stuff, Alex. That's it. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and there's been you've got some fascinating insights on your the SME market and where you're headed. So thanks so much for your time.
Cool. Cheers, Matt. I appreciate it. Thank you.